An error. We got an error on Facebook, I think, but we're going to go live anyway. All right. Good morning, Hacksters. It is another Tuesday, another Hackster Café, and today we're talking with Kyle Wiens, the CEO and co-founder of Ifixit. Oh, I'm so excited about this one. Good morning, Kyle. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great.
Haha. Are you in Colorado?
I am in
Where are you?
California. We're
Ah!
in San Luis Obispo.
Oh, cool. That's right. I knew that from I've been reading a bajillion articles. So tell us about what is Ifixit, and what do you do that's so cool?
So Ifixit. We are the free repair guide for everything. We're an open source community of people teaching each other how to fix things. We've got over 80,000 community created step-by-step repair guides for how to fix everything from your skateboard to your iPhone. And our goal is to make it not just possible, but easy, maybe the default option for people to fix their stuff.
So 80,000, that's ludicrous. And you don't just sell share repair guides. I said sell, but obviously they're free and sort of crowdsourced. People can upload their own stuff as well. And it's everything. I've fixed my camera, my digital camera here with a guide from Ifixit. I'm so excited. So, everything. And you also sell tools for people to do that, right?
Yeah, so we make fancy repair tools. So this is one of our tools. You can buy our tools now in Home Depot and Best Buy and other places. But this is I've got the security Torx bit on there, so it comes with all the various bits that you need to take apart all the things in your world. Not just the obvious things like iPhones, but we've also got this is a oval bit that you only need to take apart coffee machines.
Huh.
There's a triangle bit in here that is used for taking apart Happy Meal toys. So whatever it is in your life, yeah, that's the.
When I was a kid, this is such a throwback for me, because when I was a kid, I was looking around for a triangle bit screwdriver because I really wanted to take those apart and I couldn't find one anywhere. And then like a decade later, someone showed me that you can use the point of a pair of pliers, like a needle nose plier tip, to open those. And it was like mind-blowing for me. I was like, oh, 7-year-old me would have been so excited. But
what is it with this like anti-engineering culture? Like, why do Happy Meal toys have a proprietary bit on them? Why shouldn't you be able to take apart your toys?
Ultra high security.
It's just all of these things that add up to a society that frowns upon tinkering.
Absolutely. And I could see some argument that like maybe there's small parts in there that they don't want kids to choke on, but also if a kid is able to manipulate a screwdriver in the first place, like what do they have, like classified documents in there?
Right.
You can't infringe on matters. Oh, no.
Once you can turn a screw, I think we can trust you not to swallow the small parts.
You would think. Besides sharing these guides and selling the tools for people, you're also doing work in the public sphere, because there's all these different layers to it, of course, where it's like individual action where you're like repairing your own devices, and then also on the grander scale, like allowing people to do that, because lots of people, companies block that. So what can you tell us what you've been up to in the right to repair space?
Yeah, so I want a world where we can fix our stuff, and Ifixit is solving that on the information side of things. We're trying to make it, the knowledge out there, but the products have to be fixable, and also the manufacturers should be part of that information ecosystem. We started because I couldn't get a repair manual for an Apple laptop, and I was frustrated, and I learned that Apple's lawyers had sent DMCA takedowns to everybody that was posting their service manual online. I said, this is crazy. This has to stop. We've been crowdsourcing them, and we write repair manuals here. But also I thought, hey, like, why don't we bring the manufacturers into the loop? So we tried asking nicely, and it didn't work. So we've been working on legislation to create a framework, basically a baseline of repair access across the board. And that's the idea of right to repair. It says, if you're going to make a complex product, put it out in the world, you have to make parts, tools, and information available to everybody that buys it.
Absolutely. So here's one of those ones that you helped pass in New York. And
so this is after a decade of trying. The New York bill is our biggest success so far. It is not law yet. It's passed the House and the Senate, and we are waiting on the governor to sign it, but we're really optimistic about that. And what this bill says is if you sell a product in the state of New York that costs more than $10 and has a microchip in it, you have to make parts, tools, and information available.
That is so cool. And that's not even necessarily iFixit. They could publish it wherever, but of course, like
They
if
publish
people,
it anywhere. Yeah, I mean, they're
yeah,
welcome to put it on iFixit. We're happy to host it for free, but there are plenty of ways they can do it. The main thing is get it out in the world, and it has to be free. You can't charge for access to that information.
absolutely. And that's in the bill that it has to be free.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense, of course. And I
It
was,
should also include schematics.
ooh, wow, that must have been a lot of pushback on that. What kind of opposition
We
did you face?
had $10 trillion of market cap registered to lobby against the New York bill. And
Dang.
we've been working on this for a decade, and this is not the first year we tried in New York. We gotten very, very close in past years. It's just this year, stars kind of aligned. We were finally able to get it through.
I think it's really we're kind of seeing a sea change in this. Right to repair is really becoming a sort of household phrase, and I think obviously you're largely to credit for that along with other people. It's wonderful. Let's see. So
It has been, I mean, it has been like pushing this boulder up the hill very slowly, incrementally, trying to, when we got the New York Times to endorse legislation a couple years ago, that was a big moment. But yeah, we have this anti-tinkering culture, and it comes from planned obsolescence. It comes from things that are glued together. It comes from devices where marketers have just optimized for other things other than availability of parts and the ability to tinker. And it's time we push back on that.
yeah, and so have you seen any part of this come from support within the industry, like competition against the people who don't have repairable devices, or movements within the industry itself?
I would like to see that. There have been like glimmers of this. Like Google was going to do Project Aura, this modular smartphone,
Right.
and then like as Google will, they killed it.
Mm.
So it's been frustrating that we haven't seen the mainstream companies come out with a super repairable smartphone. But you do have some indie companies that are doing it. We've got Fairphone in Europe with a super repairable smartphone, and then we got Framework with an awesome laptop here in the US.
Yeah, let's talk about those. So what makes them so friendly to repair? The
So
Fairphone.
the Fairphone is designed to be modular. It's got diagrams inside. The Fairphone is the first phone that I know about that has an upgradable camera.
Oh, cool.
They just
Oh my
they're like,
God.
hey, the camera sensors have gotten better. Let's make a new part, and you just swap it out. The phone comes with a screwdriver. It's designed to be disassembled and repaired. The battery is easy to swap. Fairphone sells parts. They have repair guides available on
Nice.
Fairphone and on our website. So this is the model. It's a perfectly competitive smartphone, and the key here is it shows that it's possible. A lot of the pushback that we get against repairable design is people saying, well, if you made it repairable, it would be super thick or super heavy, or you wouldn't be able to achieve the performance. And that's just not true. It might be easier to make a product and glue it together, but it's certainly possible to make something repairable that meets modern standards.
Glue, our nemesis. Ugh. Hate it. We're absolutely more difficult. But you also sell little adhesive strips that people can use to replace the glue if they gotta rip it
We
out.
do. We spend a lot of time here at iFixit figuring out how do we remove glue, how do we make tooling available to help people remove and reapply glue. A lot of the tools in our toolkits are designed around that. We sell
Heat bars and
chemical
things.
adhesive removers. We sell, we have the eye opener, which is a sack of gel that you stick in the microwave that you can use to do selective heating. So we've done everything that we can, and then we also, work to try to push manufacturers to find ways of accomplishing the design without glue.
Yeah, and I just like while we're talking about Fairphone, there's another couple of really cool things that they're doing. So, for example, Fairphone Easy is this new thing. I'm not sure if they've actually released it yet, but I was reading about this where it's like a smartphone subscription instead of buying one. Nowadays we're getting tired of this idea that like you don't own your device, you're only like licensing it from the company.
Yeah.
And in some ways that's a terrible model for the user. But in this case, what they're doing is they're making it so that like if you're not able to repair your own device, you can just subscribe to one and then turn it in when it's broken or it doesn't work as well anymore, and they'll deal with all the recycling or refurbishing or anything and give it to someone
Yeah.
else. And then you can get
There's
it.
kind of competing visions of the future. This is something that's
Right.
very popular in Europe, this idea of these
Ah.
subscription-based models. What people like about this model is it aligns the incentives of the manufacturer with the incentives with what the environment wants, which is long-lasting products. So you're paying basically for a month of having a smartphone, and it's on the manufacturer to take care of maintaining it, which hopefully pushes them in the direction of designing longer lasting products. That's the idea. Apple is potentially doing the same thing, and you also have this with smartphone trade-ins and buybacks. The imperative for the environment is that we keep these things in use as long as possible. It doesn't mean that you have to have the smartphone for 10 years, but someone, once we've manufactured a thing, someone needs to use it.
Yes. And you've mentioned on the website that, I love this quotation somewhere down here, is that the greenest phone is the one that's already in your pocket. Like, we
Right.
can make things better. And Fairphone is also doing things around more humanitarian approaches to manufacturing with better materials, not using conflict minerals and things like that. But also, even if you do that, even if you manufacture something in the most conscientious way possible, it's still better to just keep using the electronics that you have.
Yeah, and this page that you're up, all of the stats on there are hyperlinked. We're constantly, working on backing up the facts, but just the amount of raw material involved in manufacturing the stuff that we have is absolutely massive. It's far more than the mass that's in front of you, and we're also just not very good at recovering it and recycling. So electronics are you think about manufacturing is taking stuff from all over the world, cutting it into pieces, melting it down, and making something out of it. You want to recycle, you got to do all that in reverse. We're just not nearly as sophisticated at doing that in reverse, and we lose a lot of material along the way. So once we have made a phone, let's think there's a phone.
I keep having these great questions, and they go right out of my head. But yes, so this is a criticism that has been levied at electric vehicles, as California has just passed a bill that I think by 2035 you're not supposed to be allowed to sell a non-electric vehicle in California. And one of the criticisms of EVs is that the lithium batteries right now that we have are very damaging to produce and can cancel out some of the benefits that you get from that, and also require devastating mining practices.
Yeah, I mean, we will find out what the long-term mining sourcing situation looks like. The new Inflation Reduction Act has some incentives for doing the lithium mining in the U.S., which will be fun to see. Where those lithium sources come from. But certainly it's an issue. I would say, the strategy with these car batteries, like everything else, is let's make them last as long as possible.
Right.
Tesla's battery packs have liquid cooling built into them, and they tend to last, quite a bit longer than people were expecting. They can be last. I think I've seen 500,000 miles is not unheard of for a Tesla battery pack, which is cool. But we also need to plan on secondary uses for these batteries. So Tesla also glues the whole pack together, which is really hard to then enable secondary uses. So I think we should be imagining a world where there should be a plan for these batteries. They go into cars. Once the battery is at degraded performance, it's not sufficient performance for a car. Maybe it's at 70% of the original capacity. Take it out of the car, use it in grid storage until it's done with 70% capacity, and then let's talk about material recovery from these things.
Absolutely. We've seen some companies that are looking to power smart homes, or just electrically powered homes, or solar homes, and use that for energy storage instead of like a huge stack of car batteries. I mean, they're still car batteries. It's just a different kind of car batteries.
Right.
Yeah.
I've got an off-grid setup. It's running 20 kilowatts of lithium LFP batteries that came out of old cars. Yeah, they're great. And there's absolutely no reason we're not performance, we're not mass constrained with grid storage. So every older battery should be used for grid storage. And I don't think that's an area, the car manufacturers don't have that incentive. They're solving for other problems. So we need to be looking at society level push to try to make that happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, so far we've got individuals, we've got society, and legislation, and and cultural change, and then we've also got the manufacturers all sort of being different parts of this. It's interesting talking about batteries in this context, because that's often one of the first things that goes on a device, and one of the most frequent reasons that people seem to upgrade their phones is because the battery has gotten old in their phone. And do you think that we'll see improvements in that realm?
Yeah, no one should be replacing a phone because the battery is degraded. These batteries are swappable. They're not that expensive. You can get a new battery for $25, $30. We sell a repair kit, which has all the tools that you need. Unfortunately, sometimes there's glue. It can be a little bit of a process to get these things open. So, but there are local repair shops. It is always going to be worth your time and money to either swap a battery yourself or find a professional to do it for you.
Yeah, and a battery may like there's some new controversy over Apple, I think, raising the price of their batteries again, something like
They did
$70.
the new iPhone batteries, I think, are $99 now, which seems high. I mean, maybe they're reacting to labor prices, but I don't know any
Mm.
repair shops that are charging $99 to do a battery swap.
But it's still like much cheaper than getting a whole new phone, even for on an individual level.
Absolutely. I mean, you're talking about an $800 phone. $100 every couple years for maintenance on that is not unreasonable. So some of the challenges that we have, sometimes people are not willing to spend $200 to fix a couple-year-old phone. But if you paid $800 for it originally, $200 to fix a cracked screen may be perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, and so coming at this from an economic perspective for individuals, you've written about how it's not necessarily an ideological thing. Like for me personally, I definitely want to promote the idea of repair as just something that we should do for the world. But like in the real world, people are motivated by all kinds of things, including just like saving money, not having to get a new phone, getting to stick with the electronics that they have and love, things like that. And you've seen people doing it for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, our goal should be to create the incentives such that the default option is the best option for the world, right? We
Mm.
want people driving EVs because it's cheaper and more convenient, not because they're trying to save the planet. It's the same thing for fixing things. If I'm doing my job right and I fix it, it is the easier, more default option to fix a thing rather than replace it.
That's exactly what I do with sort of personal habits. When I, like, wanna make myself do something, I try to make sure that it's, like that it's easier to do that or, like, only trivially harder to do that than, like, sitting around and being a blob, if there's
Right.
something that I wanna change, and it's just sort of doing that on a cultural level.
Right, absolutely, and it's just something that we can achieve. I mean, you think about a smartphone, like swapping out for a new smartphone is a total pain. You transfer all your stuff over, go pick a new one, get everything configured, set up all your privacy, got your two-factor stuff. It's a pain. It's much easier to just throw a battery in the phone you've already got.
Especially with our lives and brains increasingly sort of centered in these devices, which no
Hmm.
judgment, it's useful having an exocortex, as someone has called it. But yeah, so coming back to the manufacturing side of this, I know that you're excited to talk about this. I'm really excited to hear about this. Tell us about John Deere. What's going on?
Yes. So if you haven't been in a tractor in a while, they've got touch screens. They're modern pieces of technology, and yeah, there's a number of computers in them. There's an engine control unit that controls the engine. There's a touch screen that's where most of the parameters and things you configure are. And at DEF CON this year, security researcher Sick Codes announced a jailbreak for the John Deere touchscreen, which is a big deal. And
Mm.
I've been working with him for a long time to make that happen. We were really thrilled that he got to get on stage and reveal it.
So Doom now, and this has been a thing that has been going on as a controversy with John Deere for a few years now. I remember years ago
Yeah.
hearing about how they were locking down all their parts so that
Correct. Yeah. So I've been pushing on John Deere for close to a decade now
mm,
because and this is a trend that we have as electronics move into products. Things that used to be easy to tinker with are hard, or in this case, you've got a device that's locked down. So being able to unlock a tractor to run Doom on it, which is a proxy, of course, for being able to run anything else you want, is a big
mm,
deal.
it's sort of the stand-in for any number of other things. What would you run on a tractor?
Well, I would run the diagnostic repair
Ah,
software that
of
John Deere
course.
has. So the problem is that,
Of course.
there are error codes that you need to reset on these tractors before they will work again. You have a sensor
Mm,
that's out of whack. John Deere can come in, plug their technicians can plug their laptop and reset the code. They don't give farmers that ability. So there are literally repairs that farmers used to be able to do that they cannot do now without access to secret software that John Deere won't give to them.
mm.
So that's really the desire here, is to say, well, if you won't let us fix our own tractors, we're going to jailbreak it. We're going to take control and do it ourselves.
Yeah, it's about sort of ownership, right? This idea that we touched on a moment ago about,
Right.
how the model is shifting towards people only really licensing their stuff from the companies. You can't repair it yourself. And
Right. Yeah. John Deere, in a letter to their dealers, called me a liar and said that you don't actually own the software in your tractors. You simply have a implied license to operate the software for the life of the vehicle.
yeah. And on the other hand, there are companies like Apple. Apple is sort of in the middle where they've just been releasing these repair kits, and you can like check out this like 80-pound toolkit, I guess, from them to repair your devices.
Yeah, I've got the tools around here somewhere. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so so Apple's rolling out their new model, which is they're trying to comply with right to repair laws, so they're rolling out Apple's versions of repair, which is they're going to control the ecosystem. So a handful of things they're doing. One is they're saying, hey, we designed it to be fixed in the Genius Bar, and the Genius Bar has thousands of dollars of tools. So if you want to fix it yourself, we're going to ship you those thousands of dollars of tools with the rental model. So they're trying to make it work. The real problem that they're dealing with is a design that they don't think can be repaired safely using tools that people can afford. Now, of course, at Ifixit, we've developed tools, we've developed other approaches. Apple is saying that they think the 70-pound toolkit is a better approach than ours. Okay, let's see who enables more people to fix things.
Yeah, and it sort of boggles the mind, like, oh, but we can't let you you can't fix this thing without this huge giant toolkit. Why not make the thing with parts in the first place that are easier for people to interface with? It's like, you own the company. Do you realize this is your company? You make the product. Right. You can make it easier.
Make it better. There's no reason they need to be gluing the batteries into these laptops. There's absolutely room. And Framework is a great example. Framework has a new laptop. It is kind of the same form factor as the MacBook Pro, and it's got an easy to swap battery.
I'm working to pull that up right now. Here we go. Oh, we got a cookie notification.
Yeah, so what it's cool. I mean, a number of things are cool about Framework. It's super modular, so they're going to show you this is how you take it apart. Pull the battery out, pull the board out. So in this case, they just upgraded it to the latest main board. And one thing that I love about this is, a laptop is a computer, right? It's got, integrated, we got integrated keyboard and battery and everything, but you take the board out of a laptop, that should be a full-blown computer. And so they've made it to where you can run the board from the laptop separately. You could 3D print a case and run it as a full-blown desktop computer. Yeah.
So even if I completely drop it someplace and smash the screen and like everything else gets borked up, as long as the central part isn't bent in half.
Or let's say you upgrade, you're like, I want the faster processor, so you're going to upgrade the main board. Now you've got your 11th gen, your older board. Take that out, stick it in a case, and you've got a desktop computer.
You can make it wearable. You could overclock it so much that you need like a huge,
There you go.
Those structures that they have.
Yeah. But I think this is a glimmer into what we have lost by living in this world of totally integrated devices where people are not thinking about these things. If you start from a perspective of, I'm going to build a platform that then people can build and modify on, there's a whole world of capabilities. All the ports on this thing are USB-C. You could use them in a different computer. I could plug it into my Dell, and it would these modules from Framework will work just fine.
I remember we bought this DeLorean back in 2015 to do a series of hardware hackathons across the country. And one of the things that struck me most about it was that it came with this owner's manual that had all this. And I know that this wasn't like an irregular thing. This was sort of normal for cars and stuff before they all ran on so much software. And even with software, though, you could still have a repair manual that shows you. It had this huge, gorgeous poster that I haven't been able to find anywhere online that shows the entire internals of the vehicle and the wiring harness and like where it goes in the chassis and like different things that could go wrong with each part. And like, oh, why can't we have that? It was so pretty too.
Right. Yeah, everything. Yeah, you get an appliance, it would come with the schematics. TVs came with the schematics. That's a bit large part of why TV repair kind of died out, was that manufacturers stopped providing the schematics. It was too much work to reverse engineer every single product to figure out the wire traces. So this is something that I think we need to go back to, and it needs to be more than nostalgia. It needs to be, how do we innovate and move our way into the future?
Absolutely. And as you see with the Framework laptop, it doesn't have to be huge and clunky. I think part of what people are afraid of is that if it's modular, then it's going to have like so much extra volume for it. But this is a slim laptop.
Yeah, no, it's the same weight, same form factor as the MacBook.
We could have this. I mean, we do have this, but like we could have more of this.
Yeah.
We don't even have
I can't tell you how many people I run into that have Frameworks now. This computer is selling well. And we have a lot of them around here at the office. It's been very popular.
Yeah, and there's also the MNT Reform, which has been around for a little while. But they're really new on the scene. But you can replace the touchpads. You can 3D print your own little touchpad pieces. They've got all kinds of replaceable parts and things. I don't know if you seen this, but we had them on the show a little while ago, and they also have a shop where you can like buy parts to upgrade your old Amiga computer, which is super cool.
There you go.
This is
That's great.
yeah. So speaking of that though, back to when we talked about Apple, our friend Xwax chimed in about how they still have their 2010 MacBook up and running, but also that they can't wait to prolong their Samsung's life by replacing the battery and USB socket. So you also have these partnerships that you're doing right now with companies that are doing better things than Apple. We don't have to make it all about them, sorry. But so let's talk about Samsung and Google and Motorola and these huge companies that are partnering with you.
Yeah, so we've been trying to collaborate with manufacturers for a long time. We're starting to get some traction here, where some companies have asked us, "Hey, we want to get this information on Ifixit. We want you to distribute parts for us. We're happy to do that." I mean, I'm absolutely over the moon that Apple is starting to sell parts and make things available. These companies are working directly with us, so that's awesome. I need to take the coming soon off of Samsung. There, Samsung parts are live.
Cool.
Yeah. For the S20 and the S21, and we're working on more soon.
Soon.
The Galaxy S8 is one of the products that we are working on getting parts for older devices. And it's been interesting talking with these companies and saying, well, hey, you haven't had a business model selling parts. How do you want to do it? We can help. We're good at this. Or you can stand it up and do it on your own like Apple has done. And we'll see. We'll see. It's been fairly straightforward. People say like, how much work is it for you to start selling parts with Google? Well, we have to figure out a legal agreement with them. That's kind of the hard part. But actually, like turning on parts fulfillment is really easy. Google sends us the parts, and we do the same thing we do every day. We stick in a box with all the tools that you need. We write a repair guide for it, and you're off to the races. So Ifixit has already been building this ecosystem just without partnering directly with manufacturers. Now it's officially endorsed, and we're thrilled with that.
Yeah, you can already go and see all these repair guides, even without being able to buy stuff directly through here.
Yeah,
so cool.
Samsung makes a lot of phones, so we're starting with 2 models. We're going to expand.
Fair. And in the meantime, you mentioned your repairability scores. So these exist for both laptops and smartphones. So if people are looking to get a new device and make sure that they can repair it, that's a point where you can kind of intervene and be like, hey, let's grab one that I'll be able to grow with and learn with. And I honestly, personally, I see this as a great learning tool, as well as someone who builds electronics. And I think this is something that our community will resonate with as well. Is that like, as someone who's building stuff, I want to know, like, how can I build stuff that's repairable?
Yeah, I've had designers come up to me and hand me a thing and say, like, what do you think? How fixable is this? So that's what we do when we score products. We have a scorecard from 1 to 10. It factors in things like, is it glued together? How hard is it to get the battery out? We prioritize, we call critical components, which are things like the screen and the battery that are either regular maintenance item or that is likely to break. If you use fancy proprietary triangle screws, you're probably going to lose some points. And we've been sharing this, our scorecard and our methodology, with governments. And the French government has rolled out a nationwide repairability scorecard that is similar to ours. And
cool.
it's on display next to a product. So if you actually go to Apple France, on their website, next to the price of an iPhone, they've got the repair score.
What? Yeah. Is that just Apple.fr or something?
Apple.fr, and then you go to the store to try to buy a product. Yeah, so it's live. It's a requirement for laptops, smartphones, TVs, and a handful of other products.
That is so cool.
And Europe is looking at rolling this out Europe-wide.
I do not have enough French to probably figure out where that is, but you can go to Apple.fr.
Hit the buy button.
Oh. Oh, wait, that's pre-order, isn't it?
Yeah, but it should still have it. So if you scroll to where the price is.
Cool.
I haven't been on the iPhone 14 one yet.
Yeah, this one might not have it because they're not releasing it. Oh wait, here we go.
Yeah, it's fine.
people can scroll around on there on your own. I trust you. And then the other cool part about doing repair as an individual who's interested in building electronics is that I can learn a lot from them. I can learn how like professionals have put together a thing, and when I'm designing a 3D printed enclosure, when I'm trying to figure out how to wire something, trying to figure out what kinds of materials would work for something, all of that gives me inspiration for my own projects, which is super cool.
Yeah, we hope that, and that's something that's kind of a side benefit. So we talk about how repair teaches engineering. The side benefit of having a repair manual online in a centralized photographic format is that you have a library of devices. You can see inside how everything else has been made. So I certainly hope that iFixit is useful as a resource for folks designing the next generation of hardware. How did Apple, do the antenna attachment? I've got, this is a satellite gizmo we've been playing with lately. This is a Spot. It's a emergency satellite communication device. And I'm in here and I'm looking and they got, of course, a battery glued down, although it doesn't seem to be glued down that well. And then, they just like cheaply soldered this wire. Like, why didn't you use a connector there? Come on, guys. But also you can look and see, like, we got this ruggedized device. They've got a waterproofing gasket here with some fairly beefy screws, which is an approach that I endorse for making ruggedized devices.
Instead of gluing them all together so that the water can't get in.
Instead of gluing it together, yeah. We brought a master watchmaker who is accustomed to repairing Rolexes and fancy watches. When the Apple Watch came out, we showed it to him and he just laughed. He's like, this thing is a joke. We know how to make watches that last. This is not that.
You ran a collaborative contest with Autodesk a while back about designing for repair. And there's a really good, you highlighted.
Yeah, that was fun. Autodesk has a lot of great resources on YouTube around how to design long-lasting and repairable products.
I found it. They have all these sweet infographics about how to design for product lifetime is sort of the keyword for looking for this kind of information here. But
this is a fantastic resource. If you Google design for product lifetime, you'll find a lot of these. This is a project we spent a couple years working with Autodesk's team on this. A lot of the resources, unfortunately, have been taken off of Autodesk's website, but they're around, kind of scattered around the web. But yeah, I still use this document regularly. Like it's a timeless set of practices.
There was another one that was a really beautiful infographic, but unfortunately I couldn't bring it up because it's very blurry at this point. It was made like years and years and years ago. But I was trying to remember you ran this contest with them, and the Spot device that you just showed me, the way that it opens up kind of like a clamshell reminds me of one of the winners from that was like a smartphone that kind of unfolds in this accordion Z shape. And everything is kind of attached to the outside of the enclosure, but not necessarily in a big brick inside or And one of the things that you pointed out with the Apple phones is that the newer ones, it's a lot easier. Like the screen is the first thing that comes off, and that makes it a lot easier compared to.
Yeah, it's straightforward to open the screen. They Apple with the Apple Watches, they double the gasket that seals the screen on is also the Bluetooth antenna, which makes it really hard to open the thing up without damaging the antenna. Opening the Apple Watch is kind of like shucking an oyster. It's a little bit of a trick.
I've repaired an old iPhone of mine in the past, once successfully and once unsuccessfully, and it was like one of the 4s, I think, that was really cool, and I found these third-party parts online that were in these cool colors that you couldn't get at the time. But yeah, you had to practically disassemble the entire thing in order to get the screen off, which it's nice to see that change. Yanni has tried this, and so getting things off without damaging the cases, that kind of comes back to the eye opener that you were talking about before, where this thing helps you get off the adhesive, sort of warm it up and soften it up so you can remove it. What are these things? Can you tell us what these things are?
Those are guitar picks. And so we use a lot of guitar picks because as you're working your way around a screen, you deglue it. It's easy for it to reglue. So we use a lot of guitar picks just kind of as spacers. But it's funny, when we first started making those, we went to the guitar pick manufacturers and said, hey, can we have 500,000 guitar picks? And they were like, we don't make that many. So we had to just make our own mold, which is not a big deal. It was just kind of funny that like, I think Ifixit probably sells more guitar picks than anyone else in the world now.
That's hilarious. I thought it was just because you wanted to have a special cool branded one, but it's literally that they don't make that many.
They didn't. Wow. Yeah, they just, I mean, you think about if you play guitar, how many guitar picks are you going through on a regular basis? Not that many.
How disorganized you are.
Every repair kit we sell has at least 5 of them in there. There's also, so the thing that looks like the other blue object in the center there, so that is specifically for repairing iPads. The iPad, the first thing you want to do when you open up any device is disconnect the battery. and the iPad's battery connector just like barely pops up, and it will make contact again, even after you've unplugged it while you're working on it. You have to forcibly stick something in there. It's a design that is driven by extreme thinness, and it's really problematic for repairs. And we know many people that have accidentally shorted out their devices by powering it on while they're working on it. So that's a battery blocker. It's just a little tool to stick in there and block the cable from accidentally reconnecting.
Cool. And then we've got a suction cup for holding the screen, pulling the screen away. And these little guys have a special name.
That
Not
is
the
a
tweezers.
spudger.
Ah, cool. Is this blue one and this black one both spudgers, or
No, that you have tweezers there, and then a spudger on the bottom. The spudger is an ancient telecom tool. So that hook on the bottom right of the spudger is kind of vestigial at this point. So that tool is for if you're working on a patch panel, you're doing wires for telephones or networking. It was to grab a wire and pull it out. And that's kind of the origin of the spudger, is telecom work in the 80s, and now it's sort of the go-to device. We have another spudger that is heat resistant, so if you're soldering, it's
the carbon ones.
Yeah,
and obviously the tweezers, and then this one on the top is like you call it a pry tool or something.
Yeah, it's a pry tool, and it's a delver, and it's a plastic that's designed to be a little bit softer, so you can be gentler working on.
Yeah, so that you don't end up, Yanni, with dents in your enclosure or your outer part of the device. And then we've also got these super thin little
cards. Yeah, and they're like your credit card. You could absolutely use a credit card instead of one of those. But all my credit cards are getting mangled from taking it's good to have a sacrificial card.
Depends on how much work you do. Yeah. Speaking of guitar picks, it's funny because I also have my friend has a punchy thing where you can punch guitar picks out of old credit cards, which also makes it an ideal guitar pick.
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't have the thin little wedgy end that you have on the prior thingies here, though.
Yeah, and then in our toolkits, if you buy a repair kit, it's like $5 on top of the part. You get screwdriver that comes with a plastic handle. If you buy our fancier toolkits, you can get it at Best Buy and Home Depot. They've got this, and soon to be Target.com.
Ooh, and I can vouch for the fact that those feel really like the
it's got a full bearing. Yeah,
it's so nice. It's really liquidy and smooth, but it's also got this heft to the metal part.
Yeah,
it's very aesthetically pleasing. Are you sure though that you couldn't make this like, maybe 73 pounds heavier and like a bunch of money?
I ship it with a Pelican case.
I would just like it a bit more if I would feel more official and more like a real hacker if I had like a big.
We should do that. We should do that for April Fools. We'll just start shipping all of our toolkits in a Pelican.
The Amazon route, massive box, trying to pay off. You thought it was gonna be okay. It's great though. You can have all this stuff for $20, and this is that thing that we were talking about earlier, where it's like a gel thing. You stick it in the microwave and it heats up the adhesive, etc.
So this particular toolkit is what you want if you know you're going to be dealing with a glued-in device. We also, if you buy like an Android phone kit from us or like our Samsung repair kit, it comes with just about all of this.
Good
but
stuff.
Yeah, this is your heating prying assortment.
Because unlike what the manufacturers seem to think, you don't need like totally separate parts for each company's devices.
Right.
Let's see. Random question, sort of going back a little bit to the legislation. I've gotten more involved recently in calling my legislators, which is something that terrifies me as an introvert. But it's actually not that bad. But is that like, how would you recommend that people who are interested in advancing the right to repair get involved?
So where are you physically? Are you in
California?
Okay. So go to california.repair.org.
Oh.
And we built it. So the EFF has this nifty tool called Call Power. And you can scroll down, and there's both a letter writing widget. And if you keep scrolling, we've got a phone call widget. And so what you can do, and if you want to do it now, you can maybe stop sharing and punch in your cell phone number, is you punch in your phone number and your postal code, and it will call you and then call your representative for you. And then when you're done with the first one, you hit pound and it'll sequentially call all your reps for you.
That's super cool. It's similar to 5calls.org, which also I'm not gonna push anyone to do anything political on this stream, but it's kind of a cool similar framework where they sort of connect you with who you need to talk to. And
so for right to repair, our focus has been state level legislation. So like your local California state representative, state senator. That's how we got the New York bill done. That's how we got the Colorado bill done.
kind of piecemeal, and then hopefully that will lead to more stuff at the
Yeah, well, and the
level.
cool thing is, if New York passes it, which as soon as the governor signs it, it'll be the law. They're going to make the information available online for free. So I don't really imagine that
That's true.
that information stays inside of New York.
Right. I always have trouble accessing New York websites. I have to like put on an accent and sorry. Yeah, but I imagine that probably same as for California. This they probably have a page for each state. What about other countries?
Yeah, so Repair.org is our U.S. Lobbying organization. In Europe, we have Repair.eu, is a coalition of amazing folks fighting for your right to repair across the EU. We've made tremendous progress in Europe.
Sorry, did you say that was coalition.eu or?
Yeah, Repair.eu.
Repair.eu, duh.
Yeah. So this group is
Oh, wow.
It's a fun campaign.
Nice.
So this is the Restart Project and us and the European Environment Bureau and coalition of consumer groups. It's a fantastic, well organized group. There is Fix Fest coming up. If you are in Europe, there's a fixing convention coming up at the end of the month in Brussels. You Google Fix Fest. It's a lot of fun. It's a great event.
Here we go.
Yeah, kind of like Maker Faire, but for fixers.
Beautiful. Which honestly, I feel like there's a lot of overlap between those two communities. Lots of do-it-yourself ethos. Lots of. I feel like part of the thing that we've seen from companies who are trying to market to these sort of very DIY people and realizing that people don't necessarily. There's definitely lots of things that people want to buy, but often this group of people is interested in like figuring out how to make things with the materials they already have, and rather than buying something new, like upcycling, for example, is huge in the maker community.
Right.
And at the same time, we have a lot of people who are professionals who are building products, of course, who want to bring that same ethos, but in a way that, as we've been talking about, brings an eye to repairability and making greener. Some people hate that term, some people like it. I don't know. It's very vague, but more sort of ecologically sound products and more, I should say, culturally sound as well, just like where we're sourcing things. But lots of overlap.
Yeah. So in other countries, there's Can Repairs, the Canadian Repair Network. There's also a Australian Repair Network being run out of Griffith University. I was just talking with someone trying to put one together in New Zealand. So there's a lot going on. And I would say, just get involved. If you want to call your politicians, awesome. We appreciate that. It's very useful. If you want to, help organize fixers in your community, promote your local repair shops, that's another great way to get involved.
Super cool. Do you have a pop culture repair hero? Is there anyone who is in pop culture that you think is a sort of role model?
Adam Savage is our classic maker go-to, right? So Adam's great, but I think also maybe like Ron Swanson is right? He runs a woodworking shop. He's a tinkerer and a tool junkie.
Right.
I think we need to, in the repair world, anytime you're like doing something physical, we all need to band together. So Micro is pushing hard for support for the trades and dirty jobs. I think that's really important. Anyone who's hands-on tinkering, I think engineers, we in the engineering community have a lot in common with our brothers and sisters in the trades.
I never realized that Micro's name could be so easily confused with the SI unit prefix. So you also have, switching topics very abruptly, I want to make sure that we mention that you also have a way for companies to provide trainings and things using a sort of Ifixit-like platform.
So this is how we met. Do you want to tell the story of how we met? I was pitching. So this is our software startup. And I was pitching at it's the TechCrunch conference.
Demo.
Demo. Yeah.
I think.
It was a long time ago. And I was nervous as all get up, but we wanted to do a hands-on demo on stage, and we were looking for someone who maybe could turn a screwdriver.
And demoing some other kind of like hardware thingy. And I actually put this on my desk specifically for this. This is the screwdriver kit that I got as a little swag bonus for helping you swap out some
Fantastic.
RAM on stage in a
Yeah.
laptop, which was very easy thanks to Dozuki. But it's got these incredible old logos on it that I think are just so cool, and I still use this. Now I have like the fancy iFixit ones now because last year Black Friday I went a little bit wild, but
Yeah, so
now
our
I'm just-
software startup, we took the software that runs iFixit and we started selling it to manufacturers to train people on how to do things, and that's what Dozuki is.
yeah, so you can sort of
yeah,
have your own mini iFixit to
that's
train
it.
people and stuff.
That's it. Yeah.
So cool, and it's still going strong. Who's using this?
I mean, 3M is probably our biggest customer. They use us to ramp up their mass production during COVID. But you know, Coca-Cola uses it to do maintenance in their bottle factories. It's used a lot in food and beverage manufacturing. There's a lot of kind of shift changes, and you have to clean equipment in between runs, and the processes for that are important. What in the industrial world, in the manufacturing world, there's a lot of kind of gray-bearded folks who've been running these systems for 30 years. They don't need the documentation, but when they retire, the company does. So it's a lot of it is about how do we get this information out of people's heads while they're still around, get it written down. Also standardizing operations across facilities.
The obvious example that pops up for me here is you could be the most popular people on the internet if you could get McDonald's to use this for their ice cream machines, apparently. Because that's the thing you see over and over again is like, it's the classic joke, McDonald's ice cream broken.
Right, and it turns out it's a conspiracy.
Oh no!
Which I would have never guessed. So I didn't know. I like to pride myself on knowing everything there is to know and everybody that's doing something in the repair world. And I didn't know anything about this until this amazing Wired article came out about this little company, Kitch, that made a hardware dongle to make it easier for franchisees to maintain their Taylor ice cream machines. Special fancy. And they had to like hack into the thing and reverse engineer their secret, protocol. And all they were doing was like transforming error codes from this opaque, non-human thing into like, hey, the temperature on the mix is off. And so this story took the world by storm, and it turns out that McDonald's basically sued this company into oblivion. And so there was a way to fix the ice cream machines. Kitch had it. It was a little hardware dongle, and it doesn't exist anymore.
I remember this.
This is an absolutely amazing story. And I remember as you read the story, you kind of have to read the whole thing and just sequentially, like there are like 5 different types of mind is just blown. Like, how in the world is this the case?
Oh my God.
And how does McDonald's think this is in their best interest?
I know. Yeah, that's the weird thing. They're putting this like desire to keep everything closed and opaque above their own need to, like, they could stop being such a laughing stock about this thing. But maybe they secretly don't want to sell ice cream to people. Maybe they just put it as like a lure to get people in the door, and now the jig is up because people have realized that it's always broken. Wow, yeah, I forgot about that completely. Ugh. We'll put the link to that, by the way, in the description to this video. Standard spiel. You can scroll down and find all the links. So many of the things we're going to be talking about. Not every single link, because it's a lot, but you should be able to find your way around. And for example, the repair resources that we've talked about, everything on iFixit, also the legislative action things, how to get involved with right to repair, super cool. And also, let's take a look really quick. We've got some other cool sites. We've got the iFixit Twitter linked below. We've got Kyle's Twitter. You've also got a personal website. And I really love this description that you're doing your best to reverse the second law of thermodynamics. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, my physics teacher always said, the 3 laws of thermodynamics are you can't win, you can't break even, and you can't get out of the game.
Wow.
And certainly, like, so entropy, the world is constantly, the universe is constantly tearing itself apart, and we as makers, assembling things, and fixers trying to keep things together, we will never not have a job, right? We are fighting the forces of nature, and so I think of repair as war on entropy.
Well, I have to point out that was an amazing The Wiz reference. Michael Jackson singing, "You can't win, you can't break even, you can't get out of the game." It's an amazing song, and people should all go check that out. He's singing it as the Scarecrow, basically. It's so good. Yeah. And there was more. More. You talked about re-legalizing cell phone unlocking. What?
Yeah. So okay, I mean, this is a whole separate discussion, but
Oh
there's a very nasty law, a tiny piece of the DMCA called Section 1201 that makes it illegal to break locks on products that have been made by somebody else. So it's illegal to do certain kinds of math. It's the law that makes it illegal to break encryption on DVDs.
Wow.
Uh,
Oh yeah, I remember people publishing the
yeah.
encryption code.
Correct. Yeah, and there was happy birthday song and they put it on T-shirts, but actually sharing that math is a violation of this law. So there's major pushback. The Electronic Frontier Foundation has a lawsuit. They actually had oral arguments in DC yesterday. EFF was out there on the front lines trying to defend our rights. This is a bad law. It needs to be reversed. Unfortunately, we're living within the regime that we have, and every 3 years we have to go and ask for permission to do certain kinds of things. So I went hat in hand to the Copyright Office and said, hey, can you please make it legal for farmers to fix their tractors, to break the lock, to be able to jailbreak the tractor? And the Copyright Office agreed, and they gave us that exemption. We've gotten exemptions for being able to jailbreak phones. It wouldn't be legal to jailbreak your iPhone without this exemption.
Wow. Yeah.
Same thing for unlocking phones, for moving it from AT&T to Verizon.
More stuff that I've taken advantage of personally. So amazing.
Yeah. Yes, so every 3 years we have to go and ask for permission to do more things.
And you mentioned the EFF, Electronic Frontier Foundation, super cool people as well. Very much into democratizing technology, keeping stuff free. Very good. We're about at time here, and I just want to make sure that we go through the links one more time. So we've got Ifixit Swear, go follow there, go follow Kyle, go to obviously ifixit.com, check out all the stuff. Oh, there's so much more we could talk about.
This is a good thing to end on. This is when we thought it would be fun. We do our teardowns, we take apart new gizmos. This, I thought it would be fun to take apart a chip, and so we actually decapped a chip. And so I went to a lab, and this is an oldie but a goodie. That's a silicon wafer. And this is me, getting decked out to go in the clean room to decap this chip. So this is cutting the processor off the board. This is like an iPhone, processor for an iPhone 3G, I think. And
not exactly stuff people can do at home, but this part you probably could.
Yeah, so if you wanna decap a chip, it's a fun process. You can see what's inside. Find fun. That's a cross section looking sideways of the die.
Wow. Yeah. So besides all the new there's, you said 80,000 guides to repairing things now, but there's also some really cool little Easter eggs like this where it's just like, here's this in the clean room from 2010. So okay, let's on this. What's next? You're still working on legislation. So tomorrow, some of your colleagues are going to be in DC. Is that right?
Yeah, we have a right to repair hearing in Congress in the small business subcommittee, where they're looking at impact of repair restrictions on small businesses across America. That's tomorrow at 7 a.m. Pacific. It'll be live streamed. But I'd say, the fight is really just beginning. We're starting to get some traction. We've got our first couple laws passed, but we still live in a world where the default is disposability. And so the question is, how do we get past that? How do we get to a world where the default is tinkerability?
Yes. And you're working at it sort of from multiple angles, from the legislative angle, from these partnerships with other groups, with manufacturers, the collaborations that we mentioned before, and also just, furnishing everyday people with the tools that they need in order to reclaim their products.
That's it. Absolutely. Yes. Stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have more partnerships. But now, for now, if you need parts for any of your devices, you can get them from us, and upgrade your toolkit.
They're very good screwdrivers. Xbox agrees. Thank you again, Kyle, for joining us this morning. Oh, what a pleasure. Love what you do. Such admiration. And thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. Everyone who's going to watch the recording, thank you, future people. Have an awesome week and hack on.
Thanks again.
Cheers.